Hello, let me continue from where I had stopped last time. Last time I was talking to you about how to make things in plastic using your own custom design. And then I also tried to tell you that the conceptually, when you start any design for an enclosure, you have both issues about it. One is, how does the enclosure need to look outside? That is, you have, if you remember, my very first lecture is about the ergonomic and aesthetic aspects of how the equipment is likely to be used. So at one place, if you take a very general purpose thing like a pocket hard disk, it's very peculiar because there is a functionality which is required, and beyond functionality, when all the products are almost generic, you also need to have a little bit of the aesthetics built into it. Can you see? The rare portion of it is about a standard. Standard means it is a usual thing, it just does look like thing. And then purely from the functional point of view, you have 4 small legs like this. In fact, they have made with a soft material which is also anti-skid. And then the usual labeling is there. One of the labeling here you see, it talks about so many of these very faintly printed numbers on top of it. They all relate to safety and compliance aspect of any equipment that is being made. This is statutory. What you give at the back is statutory. Ignore the branding because, as I said, it's almost generic these days. Now if you turn it over, the manufacturer has tried to add a little bit of novelty and then some distinct appearance for this product, which is, once upon a time it was being called some proposition, like USB, not USB, saying unique selling and all. It's not true, but these are the ones that is without costing too much money to the manufacturer, it will add a little bit of difference from one product to the other. So even if you are to take a modem, a modem is not a black box at all. These days, no, the function is a black box, but the appearance and how it sits on your table or wherever it is not. If you see, last time I showed you a black colored motor drive which can be made of plastic, and I have also illustrated to you, if it were to be made in sheet metal, how do you go about with the sheet metal aspect of it? In the sheet metal aspect, if you have already seen the video, you would have seen that you need fabrication facilities. So my colleagues in our fabrication shop have tried to demonstrate something very quickly. Towards the end, I will try to take you to a little more complicated example. That is regarding trying to make your own concept in sheet metal. Now the next second level was saying, sometimes it may be appropriate if you make these things directly in plastic material. With due respects to polymer engineers, allow me to use the very common word, just like we say sheet metal. Sheet metal doesn't necessarily mean only mild steel. Anything in a sheet form is a sheet metal, but we understand. Same way when I say plastic, it's generally a generic name for anything which is non-metallic and probably one of the so many polymers that are available. There also we can make a distinction. One distinction is that it's molded. So 3 lectures earlier I showed you my starting slide, which talked about depending on the form, depending on the type of production, depending on the batch size, one needs to decide on what is the production or design process we would like to use in making the enclosure. Last time I explained to you saying using laser cutting, and then I have also given you live examples from the internet as to how the Beagle board people, they started with saying, why does code need to be universal and freely available and shareable? Why can't we have same thing with hardware? Why can't hardware be easily available? Why can't we buy things in a generic form including its design? Then next level is, why can't we have all the enclosure also with it? So I have shown you two examples. One is the beagle bone, which is made in a peculiar way, and then coming back to the way which I have shown you here, all the drawings, everything are available. You can probably order it on the net and try to see what best you can do about it. Now I will take it to the next level, saying not every time you need to make all these new designs every time. So loosely we use a word saying, why don't you use a standard enclosure? The word here standard, like so many of the other things, has a small semantic issue with it. Standard also refers to something which is regularly commonplace item which is available off the shelf. It also means that probably it refers or confirms to some standards which have been laid out for interchangeability, interoperability, and then most important is safety, both of humans and other equipment. So one of my slides, if you look at the monitor, have a look at this. These all seem to have evolved around the 40s, saying industries were coming into place and electronics was coming to place, and then something which is very related to industry and electronics was alternative sourcings. So you here at the left, this particular picture is taken from one of the what do you call catalogs from either Philips or Schneider or so many other names, or maybe Alstom. You will see here this NEMA, you can look it up to see what it is, something to do about something about the electrical manufacturers associations. So we have beautiful programmable controllers. Right now the word PC means a personal computer. Not long ago PC meant a programmable controller, and by itself it is a programmable logic controller. So PLC is continued to use a very simple thing like a simple logic controller which is used in all our CNC machines and everywhere. You have this issue of everything being standardized here. There is a syntax and semantics of programming, then communications aspects, and then after that practical information concerning ratings, construction, performance and manufacture of industrial control systems, then down safety guidelines for the application, installation and maintenance of solid state controls, and something very much related to this. So if you see here, two very important things are there. One is ratings, construction, testing, performance and manufacture of control systems. So you have this issue of interchangeability. Best example you will see at home is probably your power socket. So if any equipment or any routine thing comes at home, you can be very sure that if you are from the same country where it is sold, the plug goes into a wall socket. But then the complement of the other thing is, all of Europe had euro currency once upon a time, but all of Europe never believed to have a common euro socket. Wherever you go, your PC can't be plugged in. And then you carry a multi adapter and then accept what that country and your PC needs, one of them will be missing from that. That problem has not been solved. We still don't have a universal power socket system. That apart, however, if you now go to various types of control panels, this is inside a control panel. Seen it? Things are fairly standardized. You have cable ducting practice, by which it doesn't look like a rat's nest anymore. Everything is neatly laid out and everything connects properly to the place we are supposed to. If you get closer, you will notice that I do not know, this may be a PLC or whatever it is, and then at the top you have various other things, various types of terminations, and you see here maybe it's a safety device, maybe it's a earth leakage a circuit breaker, and you see this copper thing. Obviously that copper is something thick conductor and safe. Here when we talk about standards, it talks about conformance. You start know how well this thing conform to those things. So people have been working in this field for quite a while, and they have come out with off the shelf systems and enclosures which you need to use. You can use, but however in specified things like this, for example, there is a thing about hostile environment. Hostile environment has two parts of it. One is the electrical part, another is the environmental part. In the very first lecture, I tried to tell you that this is a beehive or a hornet's nest. One small mistake, everything stops working. But then if all the aspects are taken care of, you have marvelous things. That is why your cell phone works, and that is why I am able to probably stream it nicely from a server far away from where you stay. While this talks to the bigger enclosures, let me get back to you to little smaller ones here. Can you see here? Very interesting, nice things here. These are all, at this point I'd like to point out or confess to you or admit that these are not mine. First part, yes, but then all of them somebody has taken tremendous amount of interest and made sure that conform to various safety and environmental aspects of it. And the very fact that some of them also come with some sort of a certification saying, now if you were to make a system, it's much easier for you to buy one of these things and use them directly. From that use point of view and procurement point of view, when we talk about a standard enclosure, what we mean is a fairly proven but off the shelf enclosure which is probably interchangeable with other manufacturers. You see here, very nice, beautiful. I'll use the word plastic box. I know it's very irritating and probably demeaning to call it a box, but the reality is yes. And then one more small thing you'll notice, it doesn't have that fantastic organic form which we talk about. Hence when we talk a box, probably it means it's a bread box also. But the main issue is all these units will very conveniently go and They can be mounted, they are perfectly interchangeable. So when you want to buy a contactor, we know how to specify the contactor, their alternate sources are there. Any contactor, and similarly a very simple isolating switch, or I had given you an example of a earth leakage circuit breaker and all alternate suppliers are there. From this point of view, it is worthwhile for you now for go ahead and checking to see what is available off the shelf and how to use the enclosures which are available from there. There are large number of alternative manufacturers for each of these items which we are talking about. I have a huge enclosure here. I mean, there's a list of suppliers here, and the main advantage is like what I was trying to tell you in the morning. These are all off the shelf, ready made and beautifully detailed cases which you can use for your equipment. There are 2 or 3 reasons. Allow me to repeat again. First of all, I am not, allow me to repeat, I am not endorsing any one of those things. But most of the things that have been displayed here, I have used it and I find them good, quite up to the mark. And the large number of them now these days, some of these which we have started were about 20 years back, and online sources were a little difficult, but eventually we got most of them. So I have tried Hammond, I have tried OKW, then I have tried Serpac, then I have tried Gianta from Taiwan, and then several of the other things I have listed here. If you see that list, you will see here these all follow several of these standards which have been designed by various what do you call panel builders. What started as a simple panel building exercise and where you need to have compatibility and alternate sourcing eventually has become a huge business by itself. Okay. So, I will probably start here with this Takachi thing. So, if you go to any of these catalogs, again allow me to tell you why we build from off the shelf is what all you wanted to take the what do you call decisions, and many more than what you do not know somebody has worked out about it. Generally the whole classification is based on 2 or 3 things. One of them is a matter of convenience. So, if I click on this here, say for example in this handheld enclosure, you will notice that most of the thing what you would like to have are already somebody has worked the details about it. You have seen that, no? There is in fact a large list of small boxes, and invariably 2 things you need to think about it. One of them is it leads to a PDF catalog. The PDF catalog by definition, after you download the catalog, you can read all the dimensions directly of the you seen here. So, if you go to the, if you can enlarge it, notice what all we have. We have already somebody has worked out the details on how to make a handheld case for industrial measuring equipment. There are plastic cases, a shock-proof silicone cover, then there are simpler plastic cases, and most important is you can have them ordered to your requirements. This is where typically you need to take a decision. So, one of the decisions you can take here is, sir, can I put on the monitor, put me on the screen. You need to take a very important decision. One of them is saying, what is the role of your equipment? Secondly, will you depend on more than one OEM supplier? If it's a large, very large number of, what do you call a batch, which a large number of repetitive identical things, probably even now you can take a decision to have it fabricated as per your new specifications, because in that case nobody can directly violate your IP. You have your enclosure in which everything is as per your requirement, and then you can have a industrial design patent that is taken, and normally nobody will dare to violate that by copying it directly. But if it were a standard enclosure, others can continue to make a similar thing with minor changes and you cannot claim it. Secondly, though the off the shelf enclosure is available, chances are it will be expensive. You may have access to making things cheaper by ordering it from alternate sources. Even there, the standard enclosure person, for all we know, he may be one more design house. The design house asks people to make designs for them and then asks fabricators to fabricate the parts, and then there are people who do product detailing. The product detailing includes how to fit various things and so on. But like most of the other designs, when you start fresh, you will be making specific equipment or interface boxes meant for one particular purpose. If already it is made, you can't sell yours except as a commodity. So, you would like to add value by making something which probably does not exist, which is very, very exclusive to your use. In those conditions, and if the number is large enough, you can always go ahead and buy one of these of the boxes, or as I said, it is a very exclusive equipment like this, this is probably they have designed it themselves. You understood, this wireless, it's called XS wireless system. You see here again, there is something about an antenna, then there is something about it, there is a connector here, there is a clip, then various features have been added and so on. That is a enclosure which they have made, custom made. Now going back to my monitor and that thing, they have given an example of a small thing called a survey meter. Okay, a spectrometer using scintillation and so on. What they have done is, using a standard enclosure from these people, they have made these various other features around. You see here, you have an anemometer and so on. I am showing it as an example of how to use these off the shelf enclosures for you to go ahead and build your own equipment. So, as you go down, any detail you would like to have is already built here in this. You see here, you have all the parts here. The whole thing comes as you like, and then you can select the sizes. And this is where our critical issue comes. You see, so many variants are there, and more important than anything else, all the dimensions, what all you want to have are probably already included in this. You would have never guessed, so many types of products may be required. So, as you go down, necessary dimensions, everything are given here. Now, I will close this window, try to go back to something called the drawing here. So, you see here a large list of, for each type of an enclosure, they have given 3 types of documents. DWG format is typically used by Autodesk and compatible for most programs. So, I have a reader like version which I can download. Earliest catalogs only had simple DWG which is in a 2D plane. So, after I download it and then I open it with whatever I have it on the screen here. This DWG will get loaded, and so many of these programs are probably compatible with it. I hope it shows. Yeah, it has come here. There is some problem about the layers and colors and all that. You do not worry too much about it. The advantage being already what all you wanted to do, the drawings are available. It is in the DW format. In case you do not have a program that makes use of the DWG, you can also download the DXF formats. DXF format is nothing but drawing interchange format. While it is released, means anybody can use it, and you can import these drawings or the vectors associated with the various lines into any of the programs you like. So, this is typically one of the things you can think about. Seen here. So, anything you want already somebody has done it. You have seen this, and I will take a separate lecture on this. Something which very rarely we appreciate are these various mounting accessories. And if you are to be one of the small time design houses, you will probably have to depend on somebody to give you all these small, he calls it a tapping standoff. He means it is a two things. One end, this end of it directly goes into a opening there, and then like a self tapping screw, it sits automatically on this. And then other side there is a regular threaded screw, so that you can use other metallic screws which will go and sit inside the thing, and then you have seen this. So, there is a very positive advantage here. Again, I would like to acknowledge that this is the rights are reserved, but this being a educational video, and then you are likely to use all these items, I am asking you to go ahead and examine these things. If I go to a large number of electrical enclosures here, I had used the word non-metallic, remember. Once again, enough number of these sort of items are available for us. Now, the second decision is required. Do we depend on one sole supplier, or can we also look for alternating sources? Alternate sources is not for the purpose of any other negotiation or anything. It is only meant for to see whether in some unlikely case of difficulty in sourcing or difficulty in batch sizing, saying some of them insist that you buy a large batch, some of them come with a smaller sizes. So, it is possible for us now to go around looking for alternate suppliers. After having finished that, I will now go to another company called Mauser. Mauser also something is very much related to it. Instead of stopping with the standard enclosures, you see here they also come with a very large number of alternate small items which all the details are given here. You have seen here small USB enclosure. What we thought at one time probably involves making a separate USB device. Let us say you come out with I won't know, something which needs a USB connector on one side and it continues various other things. It is possible for you to buy one of these off the shelf, what do you call, small enclosures, and then get yourself into the manufacturing.